Gardai have launched a crackdown on illegal hunting due to rising concerns over hare lamping and the baiting of badgers and foxes. There are fears that gangs from cities are travelling to rural parts of the country to set up illegal hunting rings, including the use of blooded dogs to hunt rabbits and badgers and hares and foxes. I'm joined by Pat McLaughlin, a farmer from near Birr in County Offaly. Pat, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
Now, these illegal hunters have moved into the technological age. The idea of lamping a rabbit or lamping a hare is a thing of the past for many of them.
Yeah, lamping was something we were seeing up to maybe 3-4 years ago, but I haven't seen lamps being used at all recently. What we're seeing here are groups of men coming on land here with lurcher-type dogs, and they bring with them infrared devices. They look like binoculars, but they're actually infrared, so they're seeking out the heat signal of the hare.
And so once they've located the hare through its heat signature, then that's the point at which they release the dogs.
It's a little bit more than that. So the hare in its natural environment, which is on our farmland, it normally sits out in the field, so not near the hedgerows. Sits down in grass. Look at it. Sometimes as we walk through the field, you get within maybe 10 or 15 foot of a hare, and it'll dart out away from you. It'll put the hard crossways in you. But that's its defence to its natural predator, or even a dog doing a normal hunt. It'll sense where the dog is and seems to be able to figure out when the dog is faced the opposite direction, and it'll dart. And a good healthy hare will outrun your average dog or certainly your average fox. Mm-hmm. In this case, because they've got the infrared heat signal, it gives them two advantages. One is they can scan a large area very, very quickly, identify exactly where the hare is, take the dog exactly to the spot in a straight line so the hare doesn't have the opportunity to recognize that it's been hunted, and then release the dog right on the hare. So the hare, unfortunately, has very, very little chance of escape. Its natural defense is to run, and they can run and weave and duck and dive, but it needs a head start. It's denied that head start.
I mean, do you have any understanding as to why people would indulge in this kind of random cruelty to helpless animals?
Pat, in my experience, on occasions I've come across hares that have been left behind, if we call it that, as a result of these hunts. And when you see it takes hours just to recover from it. So these poor, unfortunate hares are shredded by dogs and just left there. So no, I think I can make no sense of it. Why or what the joy is or satisfaction or purpose to it.
Now, are they posting these videos online? I mean, is that part of the thrill they get from the spectacle?
Yeah, as I understand it, yes. We work here with our local parks and wildlife to try and deal with this, and indeed with our local guards. But particularly maybe parks and wildlife people who are dealing with this, they tell us, that there's a social media element to this, a lot of very graphic pictures. Sometimes maybe even these kills are being live streamed. And in the background, well, I suppose at the most basic then, there's definitely bragging rights about how good my dog is or what this dog is achieving or doing. But also I understand that there are competitions being run and that there's betting taking place on these. We call them hunts, but they're not hunts.
And are they exclusively concentrating on hares, or are they looking for other wildlife, badgers and foxes?
On our farm and on our neighbouring farms, what we see and what we've experienced is exclusively hares. So we've not seen them here hunting foxes or badgers.
Now, you talk about the NPWS, the National Parks and Wildlife Service. They have wardens. Do they have a sufficient number of wardens? And do those wardens have power And even if they have power, I mean, they may be faced with great intimidation by these individuals.
I know. Look, if you consider, can I just talk about one hunt, sort of give you context to this? On the 10th of December, we were alerted to a group of people in our area, originally on a neighbouring farm. So when we investigated, along with some of our neighbours, what we found were two groups, one group of 3 men and one group with 2 men, in on fields. With each group had a lurcher, and they were carrying out their hunt, we have to call it. At the same time, we identified one vehicle circulating in our area with 2 men on board. And we became aware later that there was a second vehicle circulating. So now we have a hunt operating in a small rural area. We know that there are at least 8 men involved. And these people, I presume they're in contact by mobile phone. So the cars circulating are there for the purpose of extracting them quickly from the area. On that occasion, we had called the guards, which we usually do, and in fairness to our guards from Bor, had responded pretty quickly. So we had a patrol car out with us. But it's very, very difficult to cover a whole area. Again, where we're farming, there are 3 or 4 roads all running parallel, and there are multiple points where these guys can exit and make a getaway. We do our best. So to cover these huge areas with these fast-moving gangs, you know, one park ranger or even 2 vehicles or 2 Gardai cars out, it's still a challenge to do it.
So the key to this is to try to identify the perpetrators, make sure, whether it's social media evidence or not, or some evidence as to what they've done, and nail them for it, because apprehending them in action is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, look, we have had some success apprehending them in action. And we've had successful prosecutions, and we've had prosecutions or attempted prosecutions that weren't successful for various reasons. I think at the moment, I understand there's an overhaul of wildlife legislation taking place if we ever get our government back to doing its business. But I think currently the penalties for this type of activity don't reflect the seriousness of it, or indeed the effort it takes, both by our parks and wildlife people and our guards, and indeed the farmers that have to get out and try and work alongside them to get these guys apprehended. So the penalties are not a deterrent. And the penalties are not going to protect our unfortunate native hare here from this activity.
It's shocking stuff, but Pat, thank you very much for sharing it with us. Pat McLaughlin is a farmer from near Birr in County Offaly. The text: we are exasperated with hunters who come to our area and the country. They are completely flagrant with the law and extremely aggressive when you ask them to move on. I think it's a sick, barbaric sport. Some of the farmers here are afraid to tell them to get off the land. There needs to be some sort of policing around this, as the guards don't do anything. We're a female couple with small children living in the country. We also feel very, very vulnerable.